Hi, Thomas.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing as good as I can do.
After a long day of work.
Yeah, I'm pretty drowsy, but I think I'll be able to brave it.
Oh, good. Well, I usually have author guests who get super excited when they start talking about their books. So I'm guessing that's the case with you as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's just jump right in. Tell us about, and I'm guessing from what's behind you for our listeners, we have some very cool posters, but I'm guessing you're a little bit sci-fi, right?
Yeah. My series is Versatile Layer. It's a space opera sci-fi series. Started writing it back in 2017.
Very,
Uh yeah,
how many
just
books do you have in the series?
I have 9 books so far.
Nine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
I the series is complete, like from beginning to end, everything done. I got through it pretty quick because I had a pretty clear vision in mind for what I wanted the series to be and like the themes and everything. So yeah, like I had a clear vision of what the end was going to be, and it was just how do you get there? So yeah, originally the series was supposed to be 3 books, but then as you know what happens as you start writing it, new characters get introduced, new subplots start to form, and it kind of just grew out on its own.
very cool. Yeah, my books tend to do that as well. So but
All
I've
right.
not written a 9 book series. I have to say that.
What's the name of your book?
So I have several series. I started writing romance and then jumped hop to fantasy. And so I have like a witch vampire series, and my most recent is Fae. So I'm all about the fairies now. So a little
Okay.
bit different genre, but still in that realm of entertaining books for our readers.
Yeah, I've been considering like doing like a supernatural vampire comedy book, but having a hard time getting it started. So I've restarted it a few times because I'm done with the main series now. It's like it's kind of everything's up in the air. It's like, all right, what do you do with your time now? Now that you're done your passion project, you got to figure out what to do after that. So I have a
Right.
few books that I've started and been working on, but it's kind of like you start them, then start over, and you keep working because right now I don't have that clear end goal in mind, so it's kind of hard to get started on something.
So how long did it take you to come up with the premise of your book? So tell me the premise of your book first, and then you can tell me how long, like the timeline.
Okay, the premise of the book is there are Terrans or basically humans that live in space stations in this the solar system called Sekhmet. And the space stations they're spherical, and it's a city on the outside of the sphere, and at the center of the sphere is the it's like the atmosphere, the clouds, the sun. So if you're walking down the street, if you look closely enough, you can see the cityscape through the clouds if you look up. So basically there's a neighboring planet called Samael, where this race of aliens called the Arez live. They're like tall, red-skinned. Military is mostly female because they have a very low male population, and the humans have been at war with them for hundreds of years. So during the course of the main story, a young human male meets a res female on one of the colonies, and they form a bond together, and they're separated. So the rest of the story goes over the course of about 12 years where they go through all these different adventures to meet up again. And along the way, they discover various conspiracies and other things, other problems that they have to solve. So they end up having to be the key to stopping the war and bringing about peace.
Oh, that's very cool. I love those epic romances
Yeah.
that lead you on those amazing adventures. So
Yeah.
would you consider it to be hard sci-fi, or is it more that space opera type genre?
It's more space opera. Like I introduce cool technology, but I'm not gonna give you like a lesson on how it works. It's kind of like it's more about the character development and the journey itself rather than, hey, this is how the laser gun works or this is how space travel works. It's kind of like I tell you that is there because it supports the narrative, and I give you I give a, you give out a set of rules that the world works upon, but I don't really have to dig into how everything works. And with hard sci-fi, a lot of times they really like to dig into like the mechanics of everything.
Well, yeah, and they're different readers. There are readers that love
Yeah,
and want to know like how you think everything works and how it's going to work, and they're really based in the science fiction of it could be possible, right? And then
yeah,
there's readers like me that are reading The Martian and that are going to skim a couple of paragraphs to like get
yeah,
back to the narrative. Like my husband's an engineer and he read the same book. He was like, "This is amazing. You have to read it." And I'm like, okay, I'm skimming, and like, can I please watch the movie now? So,
yeah. So
so
I took martial arts for years. So during the fight scenes, I'll really get into like the mechanics of what's going on. So some people might skim that a little bit, but
mhm.
with I think like with all action scenes, you have to establish like a goal of the scene, or a goal of like each movement in the scene. Like, hey, if a fight's breaking out, why is it breaking out? And during the course of that fight, what do both of the combatants want in that fight? So yeah, it's like the villain wants to kill the protagonist. The protagonist has to get past the villain to get to some other goal, and it kind of makes a fight more interesting when there's goals involved, rather than sometimes you'll watch a movie and a fight breaks out just because, okay, we need an action scene right now, rather than the action scene needing to happen to progress the story further.
Well, I may have to read your fight scenes because I have no background in fighting at all. And I write
Okay.
them every once in a while. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm picturing this okay in my head and giving enough details, but
Yeah, I take a lot of care to give the reader an idea of what's going on, and giving them a way to picture what's going on. And
right.
actually, the story kind of breaks into two separate paths. Like the first story is the characters are Jake Takeda and Adiola Umfalm. And the first book is both of them. The second book jumps 10 years, and Jake's a soldier at that point, going to different battlefields in outer space. And then the third book is Adiola's story, where she's on her home planet and she's trying to get things going on her side, and she's learning like this alien martial arts style called the Broken Cup that we explain in great detail, and why it's important for her to learn that. And her story keeps progressing on the planet. His story progresses in outer space on these different battlefields. And later on in the series, they converge and they have to start solving both the problems that are occurring on these separate timelines.
I love that. I love that system that you've created. So are they written in first person or is it third person?
Third person.
Third person.
I
Okay.
have one chapter that's written in first person because it's a character describing. It's the second book at the very beginning, a third party character who's heard of Jake, because the first book you're introduced to Jake, and he's this nerdy kid, and he's not tough at all. But by the second book, he's been training for years, and you're seeing him through someone else's eyes, who's like, wow, this guy is such a badass. He's such a badass on the battlefield, and he's like idolizing him. And when he finally gets to, and the first chapter is like you're seeing Jake through his eyes, and he's describing the battle and everything. And then when you meet, he's pretty much let down because Jake's not that person that he's been idolizing all this time. He's just a regular guy who has all of his own faults. And I'm out of words.
That's pretty interesting. So does Jake become this soldier to be able to be reunited with this
Yep, that's his.
Adiola? Is that how you pronounce it? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. He's that's the majority of it. Like he becomes a soldier so that he can go out into the galaxy and hopefully see her again. And also he at the beginning of the story, he consider at the end of the first book, he kind of considers himself like a weak person that needs a challenge, or he's going to fall back into his old habits and become a person that he doesn't want to be. So he puts himself into a situation that's going to force him to grow, even if it's not the right decision. He puts himself in that situation so that he's forced to grow and grow beyond his fears and his anxieties.
That's very cool. And do you consider these books adult or are they young adults? So could a high school student pick them up and it be okay, or is it more adult content?
I guess they're like Marvel movies kind of. Where if
Okay.
you're old enough to watch a Marvel movie, you're old enough to read the books.
So that could be 13 plus, right?
Yeah, 13 plus.
Those are my kind of stories.
Yeah, it's PG-13 stuff. The violence is not like super violent, like intestines everywhere. No, it's not. Not that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, it's Marvel level violence. So
Neat. I can definitely picture that from the graphics behind you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
oh, okay, so this is the cover to the final book. I'm not sure if you can see it well.
Yeah, I can.
The Invisible War. Here, this is Adiola.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, her trademark curly purple hair. She's a member of the royal family, and her and her father are the only ones who have that shade of hair. Like the blood runs strong in her. This is Jake from the first story, back when he's his nerdy little self.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't have any other artwork to show you because I don't have my computer connected.
That's okay. Yeah, so it's interesting that she is a member of the ruling family. So does
Yeah.
that limit her, or does that give her more opportunities?
The third book is all about that. Is her battling her privilege to actually be her own person. And by the end of that book, she's banished from the family because she's not going to abide by the way they want to do things. Like her experience at meeting Jake on the colony, what she went through there, it kind of puts things in focus with her, where she doesn't want to she doesn't want to rule over other people. She doesn't want to participate in the privilege that she hasn't earned, like she was just given from being born, where she sees that there's other people suffering who don't have her privilege.
That's a really cool concept and theme to
Yeah.
talk about. And I can imagine that the humans believe that aliens are wrong. So Jake and his, not, maybe Jake doesn't believe that because he's met her and he's like, these are actually good beings.
Yeah.
But the humans behind him, or the people with him, think that the aliens are wrong, and the aliens that Adelaide is with and her
Yeah,
family
they hate
think
each
that the
other.
humans are evil, and they're realizing that, hey, we're all just beings. And yeah.
Yeah, like when he first met her, he thought she's gonna eat him. That's how, because that's the way he was raised. Like a res are like these evil beings who will they eat human flesh. That's like this racist thought they had. And yet and the Arez, they hate humans. They think they're like these godless beings because humans don't have like a sense. They don't have a religion. They have like they I'm trying to find a way to explain it. Basically, humans have they don't have a concept of God, but they do have an afterlife that they've created themselves called Shangri-La. Basically, there's a device kind of like an iPhone, but it goes on your wrist called a Navi, where it does everything like a smart device does, but it also records your memories and you can upload them to the Shangri-La ghost server, so that after you die, your memories are uploaded to the server and your memories live on in this afterlife that they created.
So they don't believe in souls, though?
That's one big thing. Like Adiola introduces him to the concept of a soul. Like she says, like, what about your soul? He looks at the bottom of his shoes, like, what are you talking about?
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of humor in these too.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Arez, they have a god they believe in called named Mars that they're really religious about. And yeah, it's just two cultures that are so different that when they came into contact with each other, they immediately started to war with each other. And also the Arez they have resources on their planet that the humans need because they're really powerful resources that can pretty much the humans have more advanced technology, but the Arez have like a power source that puts them on their level. So they mainly use laser guns because they have a power source to use laser guns. If humans had the same, like a human sized laser gun would like be the size of like a cannon. They need like cannon sized things to shoot lasers, where Arez have the power sources to use like pistol sized laser guns.
And are the Reds just on this one planet, or are there different aliens, or just this one set?
It's just this one. I kept the universe pretty contained, so there could be other things going on outside of this solar system. But as far as they're concerned, they're the only two intelligent races in the galaxy, because they haven't been introduced to anything larger. Maybe that changes by the end of the last book.
Ooh. A
Yeah.
little intrigue there. You don't want to give everything away.
Mhm.
So how did you come up with this concept?
I don't really remember. I came up with the idea for the first book, and it was just interesting ideas I was having. And after a while, it got to a point where it's like, all right, maybe I should start writing this stuff down, because I personally find it interesting. And after that, I went to the Fiverr, found somebody to edit. Like, I basically wrote down all my thoughts for the first book, and I just started writing out scenes, because a scene will pop in my head and I will write it down. So when I had enough of those, I gave it to an editor on Fiverr, and she basically formatted it into like the proper format, because I didn't have it. I didn't have the space correctly. I didn't have it. I didn't have anything done correctly. I just had a bunch of pages that I wrote down. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got started, and I still use that same template that she pretty much laid out for me, because that's what I really needed. I needed the template of how to write a book. I didn't. So yeah, that's kind of how I got going. I'm rambling.
Well, and 9 books later, that's amazing. Did you grow up writing with a love of writing or reading?
I grew up drawing my own comic books.
Cool.
Yeah, and in school, I used to sit at my desk and I used to draw comic books in like ballpoint pen. And I did one book like back in 2010. It took me like a year, because it takes about an entire day to draw like a comic book page. So when it came to this, I was like, all right, there's no way I can do that again. Plus, I can't. I don't. Plus, I really suck at drawing spaceships, so I'll have to write this as a book.
So no graphic novels in the future.
Maybe if I can link up with an artist, I would definitely like to do a graphic novel. I'd definitely like to have this be a like a Netflix series or something like that.
I was talking to another author about that this morning. He was like, yeah, somebody had told me I just had to be patient. He's like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, well, you either do or you don't. So
Yeah, he's got to sit down and start doing it.
very cool. And what authors do you like to read when you read?
I read a lot of comic books. My favorite book is my favorite novel was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I love that book. Other than that, there's another book, Eye Weapon. I forget the author right now. But yeah, I mainly came up reading comic book series. So my favorite
Superheroes,
yeah,
inspiration.
my favorite writers are like Jim Sterling, Clarence Claremont, like different comic book writers.
Nice. I can tell that you definitely have the scene stuff down, and that they seem like they would be fun and action packed.
Yeah. And uh yeah. I hope we can edit that part out. That's didn't say anything.
I think it makes it real. We're real people, so I
Yeah.
think that's what your readers want to know you,
All
and
right.
my readers want to know you as well. This is my favorite question to ask authors. What do you hope people are going to experience or take away from your books?
I hope they first off, I hope they're entertained. I hope they connect with the characters. I hope they learn like le- I hope they learn about lessons like yeah. I cannot think right now. I hope they walk away with like with something they didn't have when they first sat down to read it,
Yeah, well, it seems
basically.
like you have a lot of cool themes in there about assuming people are a certain way based on what you've heard before, and then realizing that, you're not so different, and that things aren't always black or white, and that um, sometimes it's worth changing yourself, or fighting
Yeah,
for something you believe in to change the status quo. That's what I'm
yeah.
getting from what you said. So I hope those weren't putting words into your mouth.
You said it a lot better than I did.
It's late at night. We're gonna give you
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
For that benefit of the doubt.
And also we're writers. We're not speakers most of the time. So
Yeah, and I'm not a politician. I can write a good politician, but I can write a good political speech, but it's hard for me to give one.
well, when you're editing, you're taking out all your ums and so's and ands and what was I
Yeah,
thinking,
but
right?
during the day, I'm all ums and ands and what's.
This has been so fun. So, see how many so's I just had
Yeah.
right there. And you said you're not really sure what's coming next.
Yeah, I have no idea what's coming next. I've been working on a follow-up series. Got about maybe 60 pages of that. Plus I've been working on like a vampire book. Got like 20 pages of that. So I'm bouncing around to a lot of different projects. I'm bound to land on something sooner or later. Something's gonna click sooner or later. So watch out once that happens.
Vampires are like I love vampires and I read like everything and I watch all the shows. So when I had to write my own vampires, it took me a long time to figure out, okay, what are my vampires going to be like? Because you don't want them to be exactly the same, but then you don't want them to be so different that everybody hates them, sort of like the Twilight thing. So I mean, not everybody hated those vampires, but the really strict vampire loving people were like, they sparkle. That's not right.
Yeah, they were like very unvampire-y.
No, it wasn't Anne Rice at all.
Yeah, my vampire is gonna be a super asshole, but he's probably gonna be the main character. He's gonna be like probably the Larry David of vampires.
Awesome.
Oh, that's.
Sorry, were you gonna
Go ahead. No, I didn't have anything.
Expand on that?
No, I got nothing.
Well, tell everyone where we can find you and your books.
You can find all my books. It's called the series is called Versatile Layer. All the books are available on Amazon, and you can also find links to all my socials in the books on my website, versatile-layer.com.
Versatile-layer, and so that's Layer, right? Or Liar?
Layer.
Layers, like layers of a universe.
Yeah, like a versatile layer in the context of the story is like an exosuit. Like it's a suit that augments your speed, your agility, and because the aliens they come from a harsh planet, so they're faster and stronger than humans. So in order to fight them, you have to wear an exosuit that puts you on their level.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that because I would not. I read some sci-fi, but not tons. Yeah. So.
And the second book is called The Glass Runner. This right here. There's actually a picture of the exosuit right there because Jake has gotten so good with an exosuit that he can actually run on planes of glass. They explode, they shatter behind him, but he can actually run across like windows and pieces of glass.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like Guardians of the Galaxy meets X-Men meets I don't know what else, but it sounds super fun.
A lot of those vibes, yeah.
Okay, so versatileLayer.com on Amazon and all the social media. Thank you so much for being here, Thomas.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.